Hey, everybody. First, I want to say thank you for subscribing to my newsletter and being a part of my tribe where you can get updates and exclusives, sneak peeks and contests. And guess what? That's what we're doing right now. You guys get a sneak peek of chapter 1 of The Sunday Killer. It's coming out on Tuesday. Super excited about just how all of this came to be with The Sunday Killer, just its story. Each book has its own story and of the behind the scenes, and I just absolutely am hugging this book, love it so much, and I hope you love it too. All right, so I'm getting ready to read chapter 1 to you guys. When my brother was 17, he chased me with a Colt 45. I was 13 and should have been gossiping over boys, not locking my bedroom door at night and praying I'd live to see another day. The day he tried to kill me, I found my calling. Sandals pounded on hot concrete as I fled to the police station down the street in our tiny dead-end town of Millbrook, North Carolina. Looking for safety, distance, for any place but back where he was. The chief's musty office smelled of cheap cigarettes piled in an ashtray that hadn't looked to be dumped in days. Adrenaline pumped as I watched sunlight filter in through blinds, one cracked and bent by the dispatcher's adopted cat. More than the sun lurked outside the window. He was waiting somewhere, seething because I'd gotten away and plotting for my return. I'd have to, or would I? Was there another way? That was the only day I ever saw my mother cry. I don't remember the chief's name, but the memory crashed out of the blue as I slipped the heavy police vest over my head. The chief let me try on a uniform shirt he had hanging on a peg in his office. He thought it would distract me from the fear still pounding through my veins, and he rolled up the long sleeves and tucked them under to make the appearance seem fitting, even though the extra-large shirt swallowed me whole. It was the day I realized I needed to be a protector and fight for those too weak to do it. I grew up that day, up and strong. Running from a gun could do that to you. Running to the Virginia line to get away from my brother could do that too. Starting over, confused as how to a family could appear so perfect yet so terribly wrong, now I run towards the fear. I secured my Kevlar armor in place and pulled my dark hair under my cap. It was that kind of day. When we geared up, there was an eerie silence that always followed the buckling of clasps. The Loctite protection was only superficial, though. The silence was a part of our knowledge. It was that moment between us that spoke volumes. Being a cop was never easy. With one strong step, death could knock against any of our doors, and that realization kept us all tightly knit together. We all understood without having to say a word. I'd been on the force for 7 years, and on the anniversary date of my swearing in, I got the call to head upstairs to meet the captain. It was unannounced and very unexpected since my team was about to close in on a huge drug raid. The entire department knew it. We just discovered the gang had a hostage, some big political connections that were going to blow up soon, so I figured it was one of those speeches of how I couldn't mess this one up and everything was riding on the bust. Captain McBride was waiting for me by his door, his bulky bull frame blocking me from entering, not to mention the large brown boxes with incoherent scribbles on the sides, old dates, and dust on the top. He was never one for small talk and put the files down at my feet. "Heather, check out the files. Take them. Do better this time." Confused, I looked down at old dates staring at me as if they were eyes still pleading from the grave. "And where do you want me to drop these off at? Isn't Joe Jackson working on cold cases?" The captain's brow crossed as he made his way back to his chair. He motioned for me to take a seat, and I braced myself for a letdown. Here it was. All I'd worked for and all I could think about was it was my turn to be let go. What had I done? "You are over the cold cases now. Did I not make myself clear when I said take these? I don't look at you as an errand runner. I've got my own people for that." The surprise hit me full force. "I thought this was about the Delgado gang. Sir, with all due respect, we're about to roll out. We've got a marker on—" The captain cut me off. He was notorious for that and didn't care what others thought about his incessant interruptions. "You've got a new assignment and promotion coming. You've been here for how long now?" 7 years today. "Well, then it's time to get off the streets. I'm making you a detective and head of a unit. For once, just smile and say thank you." "Well, sir, I'd really like for us to wait to—" All the thoughts collided like a police chase gone bad. The foot race I could play with my mind would often get the best of me, but sit down, he barked. I can't deal with excuses. If you haven't noticed, I'm in the corner office for a reason. I push your paycheck and I have already approved your promotion, so don't deny me the satisfaction of handing you a career advancement. Do you know how many others I could have given this lead position to? I don't have time to interview. I don't have time to second guess this decision, so don't give me a reason. Your reputation has gained traction. I was impressed by how you worked to resolve that Marcus Pugh case, and trust me when I say nothing impresses me anymore. How could I put into words without sounding ungrateful? Thank you, sir, but I'm really fine where I am. Maybe in a few years I will be ready for a new position. Anniversary gifts aside, promotions and the rank of detective meant more on-call time, more responsibility, and with all that came more paper pushing. I didn't want to end up like Joe Jackson. I shook off that thought. No matter how many reports I'd have to file in my life, 1,000,002, I would never be like Detective Joe Jackson or fire Joe Jackson. He was a scumbag times 1,000,002. Well, let's just say we aren't fine with where you are. There's been talk about how these cases aren't moving and something isn't right about them. When we consulted with the FBI, they concluded they're too random to be a serial, but something is nagging at me about the series of murders we've had over the past few years. Jackson wasn't fit for the job, as you and everybody and their mama knows. I've worked this beat for 30 years, and we had our occasional scuffle, revenge, jealousy, a robbery gone wrong, but what's in these coffins right here? He pointed to the boxes. Isn't that? We need fresh eyes. You're not turning down the promotion. I'm offering you the lead detective of the unit. Take it. Goodbye. He knew I wouldn't turn it down in the end. Every reason I should say no left me when I felt the weight of the boxes and what they meant. Someone's family couldn't move on because of what was in these boxes. Who would fight for them? I knew I'd paid my dues. I worked hard for the department and built solid ties, but I didn't want to leave my guys and my partner. They were my team, like the brothers I never had. I trusted them, and that took time to establish. Work in a box of cold cases was void of the luxuries of time. Quiet killers didn't wait for anyone. If it wasn't a one-and-done kill job, the confidence of the killer could rise because whoever was out there doing the crimes, well, they'd gotten away with it the first time. Easy to think they'd try again, or the thirst would begin, or they'd skip town long ago, leaving no way to solve it. I feared open murder cases would gnaw at my heart like no other. Sir, I do appreciate the offer. Can I think about it? I'd like to talk it over with. My heart started to pound harder and my arm was getting that sensation again. I knew my blood pressure was rising just at the thought of having to confront the guys. Alex? Harris? Well, they already know. You told them before me? Well, they had a few choice words between them about not wanting to lose you and how much of an asset you were on the team. Well, he knew as well as I did when departments shifted, so did relationships. I would be so involved with the cold cases, there wouldn't be much time for me to continue those relationships. And they were mine for the past 3 years. I couldn't just turn that off in a day. I'd seen firsthand what happened when people transferred units or went to work for another department. They'd say they'd call, never would. They'd say they'd keep in touch, never heard from them again. I didn't want to disrupt my life. It was easy to manage for the first time in a long time, and I'd finally found some footing. Now I felt it slipping away and clutched the boxes closer to my chest as if it were some reminder that this might be more of my own selfish needs and comfort making me deny this move. He said, these cases need not only your fresh eyes, but your instincts. You took down Pugh when the bigs at the state couldn't. You understand it isn't open for discussion here. It's yours. You'll report to your team tomorrow morning. Take off the gear, leave it here, and then follow me. Can't I go down and at least? I told you, they know. Better to just break ties hard. You'll see them on the elevator. He passed over a photo badge and flashed a smile at me. I saw my same picture Human Resources had on file since my first week in the Crystal Falls Police Department. Such a young face. Thinner, wide, innocent green eyes stared at me. Oh, what you would see in your years, dear girl. I waved the badge back at him. Lead Detective Heather Moody was inkjet printed on hard plastic gloss. Were you sure I wouldn't deny the position? This sure? Well, you couldn't have denied me. Well, you could have denied me, sure. We all make choices in life. Well, just know that if you don't follow my lead around here, that keeps us at a standstill, and I can't have that. I can't support insubordination. Ask Joe. I can't let Crystal Falls get out of hand. And with that smile of yours, you can be the face for the press. Joe wasn't the one to take the pressure and was a ticking time bomb. If you need the complaint reports I received from families as proof of the foul mess he spread with the press, then that'll be enough to know why. I need someone with your way, your talents. I questioned. Tact? I was going to say faith, but that too. Both are hard to come by these days. I wanted to reply that they all need a little more Jesus around here, the whole world, but left it. It could surely clean up their language in the break room. When you start in on the files, I'm sure you'll know the cases well enough from the news. Maybe you'll be able to see through the mistakes of Jackson and put an end to this for the families. When it's a kid, it's different, Heather. You don't have kids, do you? No, I said. I had no children, no relationship since college, and one sour date with a state trooper who asked me to pay for my half of everything before we were walking in, announcing it loudly to the hostess that he wanted separate checks before we even sat down. He only talked about the job and a rig he'd stopped with stolen goods or how he'd saved a boy from drowning once. I needed to get away from the job, not spend nights out drowning in it. You've got 6 months to solve these cases. Prove to me I didn't make a mistake with you. Scribbled on the side of the worn box was a date from over 5 years ago. I'd cracked the Marcus Pugh case, but it wasn't a cold one. It was an active pursuit, and I had an inside connection to that one. Not to mention, he'd slipped up his arrogance. There was no one I knew that came out the gate wanting to work on unresolved cases. But, sir, as doom and gloom as this sounds, cold cases are hard to work. Leads and memories fade. Time and distance create a hardship that easily can't be overcome. 6 months might not. Well, that's about right, and that's why it's time to put these to an end. He rose from his desk and grabbed the boxes again, pushing them my way. The clock is ticking. Move. He didn't want me to start until tomorrow, yet he set the stopwatch to go. Well, can you tell me more about Jackson's team? You mean your team? Oh, pretty solid. A rhinestone cowboy, a diva, and a quick draw McGraw. Should be easy to pick them out as soon as you meet them. They're just like any other team in this place. You included. And what am I? Fresh eyes, that's what you are. I grabbed the boxes from his hand, and I'm abandoning the team just when we're closing in on the hostage situation, so can I? You're only a floor away, he said dramatically as we waved his hand out into the new domain. Welcome to the big show. Well, thank you, sir. I wanted to add, I hope you know what you're doing, but I let that one go. I should have felt blessed for being promoted and put in as the lead. With only 7 years in, that was an accomplishment in a department that was so structured and solid. People rarely left once they got desk jobs. Dale, who started training with me, was still chasing pedestrian violators and trying to pedal down muggers on the old speeder bike. Now go on, spend some time with the files before you walk in gung-ho, all blazing and ready to bring justice to these families. Start with the Emma Sanders case. That's a haunting one right there, if there ever was one. Poor little girl. I go to church with her family. Let that one be the first one on your list. He pointed to a side office with no windows and a tiny metal desk. The sunlight streamed in on the second floor, didn't pair well with my headaches, and my eyes preferred a darker room. Save for the cracked glass on the door, the room felt like an escape portal I could crawl in. I smiled at my little hobbit hole. It would do. I smiled. This is perfect. He acted surprised. You like this closet? I prefer it to all of that out there, I said. My eyes followed the trail of a small-time criminal I recognized from a road stop bust a couple of months back being escorted for booking. A couple distraught over some tragic news, a baby crying hysterically, and a worn-out mother trying to calm her with the phones ringing off the hook to top off the country song on the station. Well, then call this your office. I'll get you a sign one day. Send me a list of supplies and remind me to put in the work order for your plate. His tone let me know he didn't want to be bothered with trivial tasks. I wouldn't remind him. I didn't need a title or my name on the door. I just needed quiet, a dark room, and Jesus. All of that could be found right here where I stood. I sat at the desk and rolled back the ripped leather desk chair, worn from some heavy setter for sure. It was caved a little in the middle and was way more comfortable than it looked. He sighed before walking out, acting as if he wanted to say more but refrained. HR will be around later to have you sign some forms. Expect them. Well, I'm not going anywhere, I said. I was sure the case files would keep me occupied well after clocked hours. If I only had until tomorrow morning to familiarize myself with the case, I knew there would be takeout in my future and a sleepover. Well, that would suit me, too. I opened the first cardboard box. Manila files waited impatiently. Sad. All crammed and ordered by date. Voices of the dead screamed at me as my hand slid across each one. Help me, they cried. Please. Families called out, and their voices rang in my head, reminding me that no matter what I'd been through, I did make it out alive. I was fighting for the ones that didn't. I was here for them. I didn't know how I would do such a thing that the investigative team already assigned to these cases couldn't do, considering they also had resources from the FBI. But I would give it all I had. There was no other way. Chapter 1, The Sunday Killer. Well, all right, guys, The Sunday Killer comes out Tuesday, August 31st, 2021, and you can get your copy where books are sold. It's going to be in paperback and ebook. I hope you like this sneak peek reading. Stay tuned for some things that are next. I'm going to be doing some giveaways of The Sunday Killer this week on social media, so follow me at Jen Lowry Writes. My Jen Lowry author page. I'm going to be having a paint party on Saturday at 2 p.m. That's going to be September 4th, I think it is, without memorizing dates, of course. So let me pull up my calendar just to remind myself. Yep, September 4th at 2 p.m. I'm going to be having a paint party live. That's going to be on Twitch, my YouTube, Jen Lowry Writes Everyday Mom Challenge, and Facebook author page, Jen Lowry. And then on my first watch party on August the 31st, we're going to have a watch party on Twitch, and we are going to be watching Frailty with Matthew McConaughey. That's one of my favorite movies, and it is one of the top serial killer movies, in my opinion, of all time. So I am inviting you for that one. We're just going to have the watch party, to hang out together in the chat. So it's just going to be a chat-only event while we're watching the movie. So I'm really looking forward to that. After a long day of working, cooking, homeschool, then we're going to close it up, and that's how I'm celebrating the Sunday Killer release. All right, guys, I will talk with y'all later. Bye.